Okay, so welcome to
Hi.
Thing with Carol and me, which is today we're talking about being creative in COVID times. Uh,
Mhm.
for those of you who don't remember, it's Carol in Valdarno and me. We're talking this kind of how it's to be around in Italy with in real time right now. So, Carol, do you want to start saying something about the creativity side? I know you had read up on some.
Yes, well, Katarina, I mean, we've been talking on and off about this subject for a couple of weeks now, and I think basically we just wanted to talk about the fact that some people, and I would even say, including yourself, have managed to, oh, well, I would say, including both of us, both
Yeah.
of us in our own ways, have managed to um, be as creative as possible during COVID times, and especially during lockdown last year when we were all like really stuck in our homes and really couldn't go more than 200 meters from our house. And a lot of people were found themselves in isolation and had never experienced that before. Um, some people went crazy and just had to enlist themselves with a therapist or figure something out, and others um, found a kind of creative outlet or a creative way to deal with the situation. So what I've been doing since we started this conversation is I just been like looking online and researching and looking at local people who were able to kind of take this energy and turn it around into something positive, and just create a new idea, do something that, find a gap that, something that was needed within society during COVID, and then to fill that gap, or to just figure out a way to respond, like, okay, what's needed, and what do people need right now? And instead of all the complaining, because of course it's easy to feel like, oh, especially in tourism or in the wine industry or what have you, it's so easy to say, oh my gosh, this just, it sucks, it's terrible, we're all, doomed, what's going to happen, is our work ever going to come back, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So it's easy enough to do that, and there's enough people out there doing that. But I think there are other people who have taken a different approach that is much more positive and creative and inspirational. Because when we see people doing things like that, um, we kind of go, "Oh wow," like, it makes us reflect upon ourselves, like how can I do this differently, or how can I approach this differently? How can I, for my own life and my own work, what can I do differently that's more creative and more positive and moving forward, even when
Yeah. Sorry,
all
there was
the
some kind of
lines out there
one.
are nebulous, like everything is kind of how can I say, um unsure, like even the latest news, like everybody's unsure when the borders are going to open up, and even Europeans can come into Italy, and how we can plan that's the thing. It's like we can't really plan because everything is so nebulous and unsure, and what's going to happen, we don't know. Um,
Sorry.
so it's it's
Yeah,
really a difficult time, and it's really challenging. But I think creativity is key, and yeah. So I just thought it would be nice to have a conversation about people who are doing creative things. So I did a little bit of research um, online and just like looked up like different people doing different things. And I
yeah,
thought I might share a couple of these. Do you want me to go ahead and just share a couple of these fun?
yeah, sure, for sure.
Yeah, so one of the things was there's a couple of graphic designers in Florence. Their names are Laura Mariniera and Silvia Favero. And they're graphic designers. They have a company called Project 11. But in the midst of lockdown last year, so this would have been, last March and April, they created a card a deck of cards based on COVID, and it's sort of playing off a Neapolitan card game. So one of the women is Southern Italian, and as we all know, in Italy, card games are huge. Like
Yeah,
families love to play cards, and if you grow up in an Italian family, you play cards all the time. And so they basically took this Neapolitan card game and turned it into a kind of COVID theme with like the COVID test and the symbols for the the injection and the mask, and all the symbols and so forth on the different cards, and it's beautifully done.
uh,
And if I can find the link, I can actually put that in the chat. But the company is called Project 11, and the two women are Laura Marianera and Silvia Favero. And, just two young women who were sitting at home thinking, what can we do? What can we do that would be different and fun? And then I think we all know about this guy Lapo Baraldi, who went around Florence during lockdown when literally nobody was in the streets. I'm sure you've seen these photos, and he took pictures of various piazzas and
yeah,
churches, and these photos they were streaming around on the internet and in various. I saw them in different places, but they were just like so stunning and so striking, because it would be like the piazza in front of the Duomo like completely empty, and all these piazzas that have like traditionally been so filled with people. And he took all these photographs of all these beautiful monuments and sites with absolutely not one person in sight, and then he created a book around it. And he's selling the book online now, and it's just absolutely beautiful, because who knows if there will ever be a time in history again like that. You know what I mean? Like, just the photos are amazing. It's just the buildings, the architecture, and not one person in sight. Just really striking, and kind of allows a person to just sort of stop and appreciate the beauty of the architecture without people in sight. But at the same time, it's sort of like, wow, it makes us think about what that means, and how different it is to experience these things with no people around. And some of the photos, you look at them and you go, oh my gosh, that's like, it sort of brings up a sadness because there's nobody around, and it almost feels like the end of the world, or the end of time or something. But they're also just really, really beautiful.
No,
So
it's true. I mean, for sure there's a lot of projects and creativity that has come into, uh, come out of this pandemic. So it's interesting also because for sure at least Florence, but also many other cities are like very particular now, because you can enjoy them and live them, which you couldn't, or see them, which you couldn't do before. When it was so crowded that probably you never went downtown on your own that much if it wasn't for something you needed to do, because it was difficult to enjoy the city.
absolutely. Like most of us would like avoid the Duomo and that whole area like the plague, and just like, I don't want to go there if I don't have to, because it was always just so filled with tourists and guides with umbrellas, and you have to make your way through the crowds. And it's just, to not have that is refreshing, but also kind of like, wow, this is just weird. This is just strange, and doesn't feel, there's something that feels like beautiful but not right about it at the same time. And so I think this photographer did a really great job. It was a beautiful project, and it's being, like scattered about around the internet, and they're selling the book, and the Florentine, the publication, the Florentine, is promoting it, and so forth. So I think it's really beautiful. But there's also other like really cool things happening in other cities. Like, I was reading the other day about a guy in Torino who, in Turin, who had a bookshop, and he basically, was gonna like go out of business, like, right? Nobody can go out and whatever. And so he quickly got online and put all his books up online, and reached out to his clientele, and then had them order books, and he would deliver them by bicycle. So he just, was bicycling all over the city of Torino and delivering books to people. Um, I've also heard about like a reading service where, and this I heard was happening in Florence, but I don't know like through what association or who is doing it, but um, people calling in to families and reading books over the phone or via Zoom or internet to small children. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I think I read about that somewhere.
Yeah, some sort of book reading to kids. And I think this was something that was happening in the strict lockdown last year. But, all kinds of really creative ideas, I think, come out of situations like this, where we're we're so pressed up against the wall in a situation that we've never lived before, and people just go, oh my gosh, this is so awful. But there's always somebody that comes up with some like cool idea or something interesting to express. And
Yeah.
I just felt like it would be great to have a conversation about that. And if anybody's online with
Yeah.
us, and has any stories or ideas, or have heard about anything related to that, it would be great to share.
Yeah, let's see if somebody is listening in. Share if you have Any projects or anything that you've heard about how to be more creative? I read about this. There's a lot of artists going on trying to also to design things for the new kind of working place, which is more smart working, no?
Oh
To
yeah.
to adapt also kind of to work in remote. So there was this who do this kind of transparent socializing panels, to kind of close off the working areas. Even if you go to this kind of shared, what are they called? Now I can't find a name. Where you rent a working station.
Oh right.
Um,
The workspaces, the shared
yeah,
workspaces,
yeah.
or
So I think some of them
co-working.
still, yeah, co-working place. I think some of them still works, but they kind of do this kind of uh, probably for less people, but that they kind of close off the workspaces to have
Mhm.
some, and also I think also for workspaces at home, to design your own remote workstation at home to be more kind of
Oh,
uh,
yeah, absolutely. You know, because now people are talking about, I mean, before they were talking about COVID fatigue because everybody's so tired of talking about it and hearing about it and thinking about it. But I've heard about Zoom fatigue,
yeah.
like where people like you and I probably don't experience this because we have different kinds of jobs, but people who have like corporate positions, whatever, who are on Zoom calls like all day long. And even with my kids who are studying online for 5 hours a day, they come out of that and they're completely exhausted. They say that the level is the level of exhaustion is completely different than like actually going to school and being in class and whatever, just in the same way that going to a meeting and in person would be different than 5 hours of Zoom meeting, one after the next, in this kind of more intense working environments. I mean, that's not really my situation, but
Mhm.
I have friends who are living that, and they say they're just like exhausted
Well,
after.
also because I think when you're even if it's easier to be at home to be online, but when you're online you can't just close off because you have to be there all the time. I mean,
Right.
even if you can't go away when you're in a classroom either, but you can probably be a bit in your own world. You're not like on focus on camera all the time. But now if you're on a Zoom, I mean, people watch you all the time, so even if
Yeah.
you're not looking, you're kind of in the limelight all the time. So there's a comment from Andre from Germany. He says that he added a lot of local products to his shop that is hot at this moment. So local is hot.
Local is hot.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I guess you sell wine, Andre. So I don't know if you want to say something more about what kind of local products. I guess it's both wine and food. But yeah, for sure. Also in Italy, I think the local and 0 kilometer is more trendy than ever because you try also
Well,
to support local businesses.
oh yeah, for sure. I mean, last spring during lockdown, when we couldn't go more than 200 meters from the house and blah blah blah, I was in touch with some local farmers, a husband and wife team in the next village over, and they were delivering vegetables to all the families, and you know it was amazing, the quality of the food and how cheap it was. I would spend like €10 and they would come by every Tuesday and just drop off this huge basket of fruits and vegetables, and it was amazing. And I mean, I was still kind of doing my shopping once a week, going to the supermarket, but I knew that I could work with these local farmers and have amazing vegetables delivered to my house for nothing.
Okay, so he imported from Umbria, but customers want more local products this time. So big difference to make in this, yeah. Yeah. So are there any wines in Germany, a special region where you, I guess, I don't remember where you are, but I guess it's local wines and local food produce. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was thinking about doing this with getting local vegetables, but then I'm on my own, so it's a bit
Yeah.
too much. It would just go to
Yeah, it
waste.
can be too much. Right.
So it felt like a waste to order a box, even if it was a small box, because I don't manage to eat that much. So
Right. It can be too much food. No, and then you end up throwing a lot of it away. You have to be careful. Like with these farmers, I would say to them, look, we're only three. Please don't give me like, 10
yeah,
10 pieces of broccoli or whatever, because they're growing in such abundance, and they tend to like bring you abundance, which is beautiful, but then it's sad if you're throwing it away.
yeah,
But yeah, that was something that was really, really special during lockdown. And then I just drifted away from it because, and this is creative in itself, my landlord and myself decided to start a vegetable garden right outside our
yeah,
house.
yeah.
And so we created this vegetable garden together, and we started growing our own vegetables. And then I didn't need the vegetables from the local people anymore. So we made this like amazing garden. He has an agricultural background, so he knew exactly how to till the soil and how to make it beautiful and do everything. And we kind of just pulled this garden together and then started harvesting and creating this beautiful thing together, and that got me through the summer and fall, and I didn't even need to order vegetables from that couple anymore. But so that was really I think creative and beautiful, and I think many people around the globe actually started vegetable gardens
Yeah.
during COVID because they had the time, and
Well, it's also cheaper in the end because
it's cheaper, and it's of course incredible to have like your to make your own food, so to speak. So that's definitely I think an expression of creativity. I mean, I certainly saw it that way because I'd never really had my own vegetable garden, and just learning with my landlord and putting things down and seeing them
yeah,
grow and figuring it all out was so creative and so beautiful. And then of course we just ate fantastic
yeah,
food. So
no, that's true. So
yeah.
do you think this will continue? The focus I also asked to Andre, this focus on the local, do you think it will continue after when we hope that the pandemic will fade away sometime soon? Do you think, because I also talked about this with another friend, so do we think that this focus on slowing down, on going more local, on being more kind of sustainable, will it continue, or will we go back to? I think we had this discussion before, but I still think it's
Yeah, it's a
well, we
really,
don't know, but what can
we
we?
don't know, right? It's like I've been having conversations with people recently about like what have we learned from COVID? Like what is it that we like, what's the mind shift change? How are we actually thinking differently because of COVID? Because a lot of people say, oh, things are never going to be the same. It's not like we can just go back to normal. Um, we're we're in this pandemic and we're going to come out of it, but then there could be another strain or some weird flu
Yeah.
or some fluky thing like 2 years from now, and we have to be aware of the fact that this is just a reality that we might relive, you know, in the not so near or near future, and we don't know. And so we need to kind of be thinking in this kind of like, it sounds weird, but like nothing, it's never really safe out there. And we need to be, protective, and,
Yeah.
and on a physical level and on a human level, this is all really hard because we can't, people don't like know how to hug and kiss anymore. Like we don't know how to be. We don't know if we can call up friends and be together because, like, you know, some friends are sort of open to that, and others are like, I don't want to see anybody.
Mhm.
And it's just all so weird. You just don't even know how to be anymore. And but what I've been reading and talking to people about is that this is kind of this it's not just going to go away with COVID. Like there's this possibility that other flu strains or other things are going to come up in the future, and that we need to kind of learn to live in this new kind of way. And that can be daunting, I think,
Mhm.
to think about.
Yeah.
So I think it's really this is where art and the creative people really take the front stage, because I think life is, and history has always been expressed through art and creativity. And I think the artists are the best people to sort of look at this kind of thing, these kind of phenomenons and historical moments in society, and say, okay, what does this all mean? And how are we all being affected by it? Because we're just all trying to get through like each day and be
Yeah.
okay. But
Yeah.
meanwhile, there's a lot of undercurrents and things happening. A lot of people are really depressed, and there's the whole sad side of like people depressed and isolated and not knowing how to be. And then other people being okay with,
Yeah.
and other people just like still their jobs haven't been effective. I can't think of any like offhand, but lots of people just like go to work every day and they've never been affected by COVID. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but still, a lot of people go to work, but still at work, it's not that they can. Like a friend of mine, she has been going to work all the time, but still, at work, she can't really interact with the colleagues as before because they have to kind of work more separately. So
Yeah.
in the end, she goes to work, and she goes out, but it's not like that she has a social life at work anyway. It's like,
Right.
but then yeah, for sure, some categories like probably have more interaction at work. So yeah, I don't know. I think the never ending pandemic, which is this new acronym and that I that I learned about. Sorry, that was the wrong. Seems to be real. I mean, a lot of people. I think most people are really tired of it now because they don't know. You don't know. You think it might be over by now, but it's just continuing. So um, I think it's. But I also read like also on a more global and more kind of higher level. I mean, also I think like a lot of businesses are now trying to discuss more how to be long-term sustainable, not only in terms of environment, but also in terms of how they do business and how they kind of, organize the workplace and also for stakeholders. So then I don't know how long that will last either, because that might just be a a thing that is passing over or passing by.
Right. So let's see. Rory. Hey, Rory. Woo! I know this man. How wonderful. Um, Lockdown out of nowhere. Yeah. Yes.
Local businesses, yeah. Yeah, I think we all do that, no?
Yeah.
Mm. No,
Yeah, I mean, and Rory, to your point, I mean, I think a lot of people are discovering things that they didn't even know existed around them locally because they were so caught up in the frenetic sort of life of whatever, going to work, going to their gym, dealing with their family, whatever, sort of, and now people have a little bit more time to be thoughtful about what it is that they're doing and who they're getting involved with and how they're spending their money or what have you. I think it's yeah, yeah. I think everybody has been allowed this kind of grace of taking a bit more time and thinking about how they're structuring their days and how they're
well,
who they're
also just
out.
be out more, like out walking or out biking or whatever. I think this thing of only going to work and then going to the gym and then going home is probably not, I don't know. I hope it's not going to be the only way to do things. I'm sorry for the gyms, but I think it's also good that people either than rather than going to the gym, they go out for a long walk. I mean, I think it's more
Oh
healthier.
yeah, yeah.
Then perhaps you might not have the intense workout, but I think you can find other ways to have that also outdoors
Oh,
than going.
absolutely. I live I live on a dirt road in Tuscany, and there's always been a fair amount of people who come up and down my street to run or work out or cyclists that go by, mountain bikers, whatever. But since COVID, the number of people has like tripled. I mean, it's amazing how many people have just like discovered my street and come out here and walk, and it's like so many more people than once upon a time just because the gyms are closed and people are getting out, and that's really beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's very positive. I mean, I think also here in the town, I mean, in the city, it's also more people, are out or go for walks, or you see them
Mhm.
also on bikes, which is Florentines were not really known for going a lot on by bike unless it was these kind of more hardcore bike enthusiasts, who did kind of, I don't know, racing and stuff. But now also people in general are just going for a bike ride, and I think that's cool. I mean,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I mean, I hope it's going to continue, and that people go out rather than go to a gym. But that's my point of view because I think.
Yeah, yeah. Well, surprisingly, today in Chianti, there was a very, very important Gran Fondo, a really important professional bike race called Strade Bianche, and it happened. It actually happened, and the professionals raced the route. It's all kind of off road with road bikes,
uh,
and I saw a bunch of posts about it today, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't even know this was happening. If I knew, I would have been there."
yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's like that's the other thing is like there's so much unpredictability. Like so many things cannot happen, and then all of a sudden you see a professional bike race happening that
yeah.
that shouldn't have been happening, but it's happening anyways, and all these people are there witnessing it. But it's sort of it's very confusing, how to know, how to proceed and like what's happening and what's not happening in terms of the events and the things that
No, that's true. They can only kind of decide like 10 days before or so.
Yeah.
But that also feels a bit liberating sometimes to me, you know. It becomes a bit more. I realize you can't do this long term, but I mean, it's also a bit freeing because you don't have to be as, you can be a bit more free to do unexpected things. And
Yeah, that's true. It inspires spontaneity, right?
yeah. Yeah, and then I mean, everybody's also a bit more kind of relaxed because you can't, of course, request so much. Everybody's just happy to be out and, you know, to be able to do things. So
Hmm.
not that I want the pandemic to go on forever, but I think it's also some positive things come out in this sense
Yeah,
that
absolutely. Yeah.
people are less kind of focused that everything has to be perfect and more happy just, you know, to see each other, which is also something fun, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, I don't know, I think there's a lot of creativity, as you have also given examples about that is happening. So I think it's not all negative during the pandemic, but for sure it's going to be curious now in the next 1 or 2 months, because now I think we're in a bit of a lockdown period again, because obviously
Mhm.
a lot of people have taken advantage going around in big groups and without masks. So I don't know. I think before April it's going to be a bit tough again, but we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, here in Italy, it's I think what's well, there's a bunch going on. There's the new strains which are you know, mysterious to people because some people are getting vaccinated, like the high priority people are getting vaccinated, but are they then okay? Is the vaccine, protecting them from these new strains? And then
Yeah, that's true.
the whole rollout of the vaccines here in Italy. First, they were talking about September, getting most people vaccinated by September, and then the last 2 months have sort of demonstrated how slow things were going, and so then they started predicting that you know people weren't really going to get vaccinated here in Italy until um, uh, December. And then Draghi got really upset about that and is expedited different things and put new people in power. And so now they're talking about June, which seems really unrealistic. So I think it's a little bit all over the board.
Well, also because in Europe it's generally harder to get, you know, enough vaccines yet, because I think they haven't had as good
Mhm.
negotiations as other countries probably, or I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think they just have to start vaccinating and then see what happens.
Well, yeah, which is what's happening, but I think it's going to be a slow process, and
Yeah.
um,
Well, also because it takes like still for most vaccines you have to have it twice or at least twice, I think.
yeah,
Which is, of course, a lot of work. So we'll see. I don't think I will be getting it before the autumn, but we'll see.
yeah, yeah. I think we're pretty low on the list.
Mhm.
But since we both work with people and groups and are kind of out there in the world in a different way, you know, I sort of question, like I sort of think like, hey, wait a minute, I'm a tour guide, so I need to, but who knows how to go about that and get yourself on the list or whatever. But
No, I don't know either.
um,
We have to see what
yeah.
happens. So before we round it up today, I think there was another comment from Rory. So he
Hey,
said,
yeah. Yeah. Paris to Nice. Oh, wow. That's awesome, Rory. I didn't know about that.
yeah, without the fans.
Quite
Yeah, but
yet.
it's
There's
good that
hope
the
to build.
92.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that, Rory. That's awesome. Um, wow. Yeah, cycling and so many other sporting events have been so affected by by
Yeah.
COVID. Yeah, it's
But anyway, I mean, I would just, before we round it up, I would ask the people who are here, I mean, to just write us if they have any ideas, for our coming. I think we will do it every 2 weeks. What do you think?
mhm,
Because every week might be a bit tough for both of us. So
right.
I think we would do it every second Sunday. So if anybody has any suggestions, what they want to discuss more, I think that would be cool too. And of course, we would come up with our topics also.
Yeah.
And
Or like, I think a lot of people are, because a lot of people write in to me all the time about what's happening in Italy. Because I don't think there's a lot of news about that in other parts of the world, like in the US in
no,
particular. So I think anyways, it's somewhat interesting for people to hear about what's going on
yeah, for
in
sure.
Italy, in terms of like politically what's happening, and then how we're, these different zones that we have, the color codes and etc.,
Yeah,
and how we're actually living the whole experience out. Because I'm pretty aware that it's not it's it's an unknown,
no,
to
for sure, for sure.
America. And I don't know about the rest of Europe, like in Sweden, Katarina.
No, either. I think it's a bit of a chaos there. I think I just know that
No,
they don't do COVID tests only when you have COVID, but they don't test you afterwards. So basically, you can go out still having COVID in your body and go about as usual. Sorry, which means that you probably infect a lot of people before it goes away
right, right.
because they don't have resources, I think, to do COVID tests. So, which is a bit of a strange.
Yeah.
Okay, so Marisa says, yeah, updates would be great. So I think that's cool.
Thanks, Marisa. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I think it's fun to talk about all this stuff and share with other people kind of what our experience here is in Italy. And so we'll check back in a couple of weeks with like some sort of new theme. Like tonight was creativity and pandemic, but we can have a theme and then kind of talk about just
Yeah, I think
generally what's
that would be
happening
cool.
here in Italy.
Yeah, so we just do the latest news, and then we, as you said, we choose a theme, and if somebody wants to know anything, just write to either of us. And
Yeah.
Carolina, I don't know who Carolina. Ah, yes, that's to you, Caroline.
Ciao Marisa. Ciao bellissima.
So we would be back in 2 weeks, Sunday 2 weeks.
Okay,
Um,
that sounds great.
So thank you everyone who were here, and
Yeah.
it's been a nice talk. And see you next in 2 weeks. So
Yes.
ciao. And feel free to follow Carol and me if you want to get the reminders of our live streams. You can follow us here on Facebook. So have a nice Sunday and ciao.
Ciao, ciao a tutti.